Welcome back to the SunDaze Journey Podcast. I don't know if you can see my dog, but he's right here as well, wanting to say hello. My name is Alexis Carthan,
And I am Mary-Beth Meagher.
and we are your host for this lovely hour that we like to call the Unqualified Hour. As you heard in our first episode this of the season, like we have sort of like shifted our thinking when it comes to these like fireside chat style episodes that we have been doing for the last couple of not the last couple of years but the last couple of seasons. Yeah, like this is just a I don't know, a time for us to just sit and chat about things that we are not necessarily qualified to talk about, but things that we are experiencing in our own lives that we think that others can also be like, I guess, resonate with as well. You know, the other day I was actually thinking about this and I was like, you know what these like episode styles remind me of? It's like when you this is so stupid, but when you like give your friend advice and they didn't necessarily ask for it, but they asked for it, and you're like, yeah, this is what I think you should do. But then at the end, you're like, but you know, do what you need to. I'm not an ex. Like, that's kind of like, that's what I think this is.
Like unsolicited, but appreciated.
Appreciated, but also like, we're not, I don't know at the end of the day. Like, I'm not an expert. Maybe you should seek the help of
a therapist.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, when you finish that, like your little bit of advice and you add that, but I don't know at the end. That's
like,
what
let me step down off my soapbox.
We're so excited to be bringing you yet another topic that I personally resonate with so much, but I'm going to let Mary-Beth take it away.
Yeah, so for this installment of the Unqualified Hour, we thought that we would unpack what it means to create or reclaim a work-life balance. And just to sort of break the ice, because this can be more of a heady topic, let's kick it off with a lighthearted question. Alexis, what have you been reading, watching, or listening to lately?
Oh, I have an answer for all of that. Reading, I have been really into the Empyrean series. Like they had a well, depending on when this podcast comes out, this episode comes out, there is a third book in the trilogy. Ooh. Or I guess series. I don't know how many books they're gonna have coming out this year. So I've been kind of getting myself refreshed and rereading those.
Do tell. What is this? No, I haven't heard of this series.
Yes, you have. I have definitely told you about this. This is the Fourth Wing, and
is it the dragon?
Don't even like. You didn't have to put my nerd on air like that.
My bad.
Yes, that's what I've been kind of getting into. I'm super excited. There are going to be all these like special edition covers coming out. I'm really excited about it. It's really like scratching the itch of my nerdism. So yeah, that's what I've been reading. Very much into the Kindle Unlimited gang. This is not an ad, but I highly recommend.
I mean, if Kindle wants to sponsor us, I wouldn't say no.
Jeff, call me.
When you're not in outer space, give us a ring.
Just pick up the phone. It's fine. It's fine. We'll answer. Even though he doesn't have anything to do with Amazon anymore, does he? He's just like kind of
no idea.
He's probably like a silent. He's totally getting money. He's totally. Anyway, what have you been reading or watching?
Well, I might be a decade late on this, but I recently started watching Homeland, that show with Claire Danes that came out like in the early 2000s.
Yeah, you're a little late.
Yeah, it's just okay. A tad, give or take 10 years, maybe even 15 at this point. But I found the entire series on Hulu.
Ooh.
And I don't mind some political espionage. So I'm on season 2 now, and I'm hooked. I am fully in the world of the CIA, and I'm wondering if I missed my calling in life.
Oh my. Okay, Olivia Pope.
I know. What would Olivia do?
Were you a scandal girly?
I was such a scandal girly.
Me too.
I was obsessed with that show.
Me too. It was like my favorite thing in the world to get on Twitter during that. When, like, I mean, excuse me, X. I'll never call it that.
We will not confirm.
I'll never call it that. What's an X?
So
but
stupid.
Yeah, I would get on Twitter during like the premieres, like the
you would live tweet
100. Well, I would like and retweet.
Got it.
I was not funny enough to be unless something like absolutely crazy or wild would happen. I'd be like,
it always did.
Yeah, I mean it was always a cliffhanger or whatever at the end. So
like just when you thought there couldn't be more bloodshed,
right.
You were wrong.
But you know what? I also can't really judge you for watching a show like a decade later. You know what I started watching like a couple months ago? Lost.
I could go on a diatribe about Lost. I love that show so much. So don't let me. We will be here for 3 hours.
All right, we'll say that for like a special bonus episode. I'm not even kidding. Lost. I was like, I know that's like decades late.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
We'll have to talk off mic about it because no show has made me cry in quite the same way that Lost makes the waterworks just fall from my eyes. It's embarrassing.
Oh, wow. And it's sad because like being a film major, like Lost was definitely like talked about a cajillion times. And like, so I have the spoiler of the end.
Okay.
So it kind of sucks. Like but I don't understand it. And I don't think anybody understood it.
No, don't expect the show to have any sort of continuity after about season 3.
Oh, dang.
But with that said, you will fall in love with the characters.
Yeah.
And you will be fully invested. And this is a hot take, but I enjoyed the series finale. I might be the only person, but I did.
The only person in the history of the world. I don't know a single soul that's...
It is the most polarizing conversation topic.
Wow, yeah, like, okay, well, maybe I'll get through all 37 seasons and then we can...
Sounds about right.
And then we can talk about it because, yeah, that's definitely... That's a hot take.
It is a hot take. And now that we have fully shown how we spend our work-life balance watching TV.
Consuming media.
Yep. Because we don't get enough screens during our normal 9 to 5s. Maybe we should give the folks a definition of what work-life balance actually is, because as we thank you I felt really solid about that one. As we transition into an increasingly remote or hybrid business landscape, especially in the continued aftermath of COVID, I feel like those boundaries, and I'm sure you can attest to this, the lines between home and office are becoming so blurred that it's hard to even know what a healthy work-life balance can even entail, let alone what it means to practice that in daily life. So I found this definition from a certified integrative wellness and life coach. Her name is Alea Cooks Campbell, and she defines work-life balance as maintaining a harmonious relationship between your professional and personal life. She also goes on to point out that this includes being able to consciously manage both your time and energy to meet all commitments while nourishing self-care and well-being at the same time. How does that hit you? Does that resonate?
Yeah, the internal quest. Internal, external, eternal. No, yeah, that definitely does hit me pretty hard. Especially just like going back to what you were saying about how the vid really shone a light on this particular topic. I think obviously, like, I hate to like go back to 5 years ago, which is crazy. But like during that time, like a lot of people were just like trying to like figure out like how do I like have work-life balance while like my whole work and my whole life and like everything in between is at home. And then what's so crazy is that, and of course you can see this on pretty much any major corporation, but like a lot of these things that we thought we taught ourselves and the things that we thought we learned really do not even remotely matter anymore. Like a lot of the lessons that we were forced to learn literally have just like scurried away into the darkness.
So
and I think that's so sad because I was like, this was such a pivotal, horrible thing that happened to not just our country, but our entire world.
Yeah.
And I thought that we'd learned so much from that. But like, I see people more stressed out and struggling more than ever to kind of maintain this like sense of work-life balance. And that sucks, and I can speak for myself mostly, and obviously those around me, but mostly myself, when I say that according to this lovely wellness and life coach, like I'm not 100% sure that I have like the best work-life balance, because a lot of the time, and we can talk about this till later on, but to meet all of my needs and these different areas of my life. But I've had certain I don't know, I guess experiences, and I use like my own personal tools to like at least keep myself together. But I think this is definitely a lesson that we can all use and sharpen our little skills.
Yeah, 100%. So let's tease that out. I'm sure that we both could pull any number of examples off the top of our heads, but can you remember like the first time that your work-life balance, even if you didn't know what to call it at the time, felt out of whack, and how you learned to prioritize it, or at least create some space for it?
Yeah, I can think of several times. But the first, I think, was, I guess, the first meaningful time where I really had to like say, all right, girl, get it together. And I've talked about this before, like in season 1 of my like leap of faith moment, where like I left a full-time job with nothing lined up, and everything happened as it was supposed to, as God intended. I'm a Christian, so I'm gonna throw that in there. But I really felt like it was all of these issues that I was having was because I wasn't on the right path. That was for me. And I could sense that my soul, my spirit was unsettled, because I felt like there were so many different areas of my life that I wasn't able to like give the energy to, where just like all of that was like just kind of out of whack. Like it was work and home. And I was like, okay, something's got to give. I'm not saying everybody needs to just go and quit their jobs, but yeah, I think it was that time. So at this, oh my goodness, this was probably like 8 years ago now, probably 10. But
Wow.
I just, I'll not even age myself any further.
You don't look a day over 31 and a half and
I'm sure gonna
3/4.
give me 25, man. Literally. Okay. But yeah, no, that I think that's my answer is it was just feeling really unsettled and all of these different areas of my life. And yeah, I knew that I had to make a change because of it, but I didn't know what that looked like because I had not been in that situation before. And now, like, of course, because I have learned these lessons, like I think I can recognize it a little bit more now and really understand the purpose of having this work-life balance, this like harmonious life on both ends of my existence,
Yeah, so for you, creating that boundary meant a drastic change.
Yeah, and it's not always that, right? Like, I think currently in my life there is this call and need for more work-life balance. But yeah, I think at that time I did have to do something drastic because there were other things at play that involved me doing something drastic in order to make this true lifestyle change.
Yeah, I think you hit on something important just then, that work-life balance, as it were, can take different forms in various seasons of life, or even depending on what your needs or priorities or lifestyle requires. It's not a one size fits all situation. And the specifics of a healthy, sustainable work-life balance can vary for each of us based on what we uniquely require. Like someone who works from home with a family to take care of might need to approach their work-life balance in a much different way than someone who's single and works in an office. There's really no one correct formulaic way to integrate it into our daily routines, and it might take some trial and error until we find what works for us individually.
So I kind of want to flip the script here and ask you pretty much the same question. Like, can you talk about like a time in your life where you felt like your work-life balance was, out of whack or, out of sync, so to speak? And I don't know, I guess, what did you do to come back from that?
Yeah. So what comes to mind for me is an instance in my early 20s. I was maybe a year and a half out of college, and I had just moved out on my own. And full disclosure, I've never had a traditional corporate job. I basically started freelancing right out of the starting gate before a lot of folks knew what freelancing was. And I was not equipped to do it in a measured way, so to speak. I dove all in, and I thought because I wasn't working in a conventional format that I had to drive myself into the ground to justify working from home and maintaining my own flexible schedule and being accountable for deadlines, because I had all of this leeway. I assumed that I needed to be extremely structured and disciplined with myself to the point that it became rigidity. So I did not keep normal working hours. I would regularly grind into the evenings. I was always hustling on weekends, and I didn't notice that anything was off kilter about that because I was living on my own, so I didn't have anyone to answer to. But my boyfriend, now husband, came to visit me, and I didn't spend any time with him at all. He drove 8 hours out of state to come see me and to spend quality time together. And I just stared at my laptop and clacked away on my keyboard and justified it because I was working. And in my mind, working should be the priority. Productivity should give me a free pass to set my relationships on the back burner because I'm doing what in my own mind I'm supposed to be doing in order to maintain this semblance of responsible adulthood. So
whatever that is.
Right. So he called me on it and was not gonna let that slide. And he was right. He had every reason to point out that in that moment, my focus wasn't on what it should be. I wasn't giving him the time and the energy and the attention that our relationship deserved. So I had to take a step back and reevaluate what I care about and how I want to organize my life. I mean, there's a fine line between structure and stringency. Sorry, that's not a word. Stringency.
Look at you making up words.
That was a total tongue tie moment. But the point being, I had to look in the mirror and I had to just kind of shuffle around what I cared about. I don't want to be spending 12 plus hours every single day in front of a computer, all in the name of productivity.
But
that's not sustainable.
It's not. But can I be real for like 5 seconds?
Do it.
It's hard. Like, okay, so there's so many levels to this, right? Like, and I just want to be as real as I possibly can with this topic because yes, I do have some sort of skill and learned lessons. But at the same time, it is definitely still a struggle, right? So first things first. Like, okay, love Brandon. Love him to pieces. But like, you know, at the time, like mama had to work. She had to get her money, you know, like, so how do you know, like, okay, I need to like put my laptop down, you know, like you get what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I need to put my laptop down, but at the same time, like I have deadlines and bills need to be paid and things like that, you know, and I'm saying this because I've also gotten the same feedback recently from my husband. So, and obviously like the stress isn't as apparent there because we're a little further along in our careers now. And like, you know, we are a little bit more established. But there's still like dreams, there's still goals, there are still, you know, like there's still a little bit of ambition here. So like, with all of that said, you're a high achieving, ambitious woman.
It's my downfall.
Yeah, same, friend, same. So like, how do you make that work? Even in that situation, like this was years ago because you said that you weren't even married then. So, but you want to knock on my age.
I forgot 2 years on you.
But yeah, like, you know, this was years ago. Obviously, like, you guys have grown, and I'm sure you have like your own lessons that you've learned, and like your own I guess your actions that you take, you know, day to day to make sure you maintain a semblance of work-life balance. But like, you know, for the people out there that are in that season of grind mode, which we all have to be, you know, at some point, like, how do you do it? You know?
Yeah. For myself, I've had to learn the art of moderation and stay tuned on how it pans out, because that is still a work in progress. But with the example that I just gave, I had to look at it realistically and holistically. Like, the work that I was grinding away at in that season, I was making pennies on the dollar. So was it even worth my time, energy, and attention to be that invested? No, like, from a financial standpoint, it wasn't. I thought that's what I had to do to lay the foundation and eventually springboard into other opportunities. But I also had to look reality in the face and realize I'm spending hours on a project that's not paying dividends. So let me take a step back, or let me say no to this and find something else that I can say yes to. And also, I won't apologize for those times that I do have to work a night or a weekend, because that is the nature of my industry. So sometimes it's inevitable, and sometimes my schedule doesn't allow for much else. And in those moments, I put my head down and I say no to social plans or whatever the case may be, and I make it happen. But I try not to turn that into a habit to the point where I'm neglecting other areas of my life, because I do think that ultimately can lead to burnout. And I even found a stat, if we want to bring some data into this conversation.
Science.
We love ourselves some science.
We need like a little jingle for when we bring we bring a
in that. We'll come up with
that. All right.
So, according to a 2024 poll from the American Psychological Association, 1 in 3 U.S. employees don't have any balance in their professional and personal lives. And almost 70% are dealing with mental or emotional burnout as a result. So that is the majority of us, if we're keeping tabs here. And that, I can't even say was all that surprising to me.
No.
Because it tracks.
No, it tracks. It tracks in my own home. Okay? It tracks, man.
So my rub here is that work-life balance, I personally feel like that term has become such a buzzword in recent years that it can seem like this vague, stale term we just toss around whenever we feel stressed out or overwhelmed on the job. But that's not really what we're getting to the heart of right now. It's a systemic problem in our culture, and we exist on these hamster wheels that we're actually pat on the back for. It's considered a badge of honor to not have a work-life balance.
Yeah. So can I talk about this from like a corporate girly
Yes, please
/
do.
entrepreneur perspective? So I'm sure like anyone reading or listening or reading our articles on our site, anyone listening has wanted to, I don't know, just kind of go after a new position at work or, get a raise or whatever. And I remember this one time I had requested a bit of a promotion, if you will, at one of my former employers. And the advice given to me was, well, I think you should just take on any and every project that comes your way, do any and everything you can do, like live and breathe this, like this is it. And I'm like, yeah, no, absolutely not. No, like we could do a whole podcast on playing the game in corporate America. But that is not the game. That is not how you play it. How you play it is finding other resources to do the work to do the grunt work you were doing while you focus on other stuff. But what this person had suggested to me was absolutely asinine. Like, have you lost your mind? Right. So as I'm sitting there in their office, I am like, so you want me to give up my whole existence, my whole life at my big old age and in hopes that maybe I'll get like a little crumb. Everything that we've worked for, all of you for a crumb, right? So I can't even remember why I'm telling this story, but my whole point is, it's like that whole like work-life balance becoming a buzzword, and like people not like, I can't remember what was the statistic. I can't remember. It was
1 in 3. 1 in 3. That's crazy.
Yeah, 1 in 3. 1 in 3. Okay, so most of us, because I know math. I actually think it's 2 and 3, but whatever.
It's probably 3 out of 3.
Yeah, 3 out of 3 people. This is why we're unqualified. But no, like it doesn't surprise me, because this statistic doesn't surprise me because of the things that you hear. And it was so casual the way it was said, like in this corporate setting, like, oh, just do like take on every project you can do. And I'm like, is this supposed to be some type of rah speech to like get me going? Because you have the wrong audience if you think that, so yeah, like but then again, like, I guess on the flip side of this, is hard to also like not listen to these people, because they are like the people you're reporting to, or like, people that hold the key.
Yeah.
And you have to be strong enough and have the skills and the discernment to know that not everything is worth it. If it's going to compromise like your life outside of work, if your boyfriend's going to be driving 8 hours to see you and you're working on all 17 of those projects that Mr. or Mrs. Man was telling, like whatever it was like, what are you? No, like it's not going to work.
So that does raise a sticky question, because how, and I'm sure that this question could go in a few directions, but these so-called gatekeepers you're referring to, who,
I like how you put that so eloquently.
Thank you. I must be a writer or something.
I think so. Yes,
who
gatekeepers,
the Mr. and Mrs. Gatekeepers, who do glamorize productivity and hustle, and maybe have a point. Maybe in the short term that does lead to quote unquote corporate success. How do you maintain the resolve and the self-awareness and the respect for other areas of your life to take a stand and say, no, I'm not doing that.
Well, this I actually feel confident in speaking on because I do this now. Obviously, I did not do what this person told me to do, and I still ended up getting what I came in that office for. So I feel qualified. You have to know what is really worth your time and what isn't. Maybe it is that you take on an additional project so that you can showcase your skills, but that doesn't mean accepting any and everything that not even comes across your desk, goes across someone else's desk, because that's what the suggestion was. It was like anything that's happening in the entire space, like you need to be like putting your toe in there and making sure your face gets seen. And yeah, but I don't want to show my face if I'm not gonna be good, or good. Now I don't want to say good enough, because but like if it's not anything that I'm called to do or I feel particularly passionate about, like why would I waste my time, your time, everyone's time doing something that I don't even want to be involved in the first place? Because that opens up a whole different set of worms, like can of worms, not a set.
They can
come in a pair of 4. Just 4 worms. It can open up a set of worms.
It's been a long week, folks.
Please save me. Yeah, but it can open up a whole different can of worms. And now you have a bunch of problems. So you say you did get your promotion, and they're like, oh, well, Alexis can handle 87 things at once. Or maybe they're seeing that you're taking on all of these projects that you're not even really, I don't want to say qualified to talk about or do, but yeah, like maybe you're not qualified to do this. Therefore, you don't have any, or maybe you don't have any like skills that surround this thing. Like, I don't know. That doesn't, to me, that sets you up for failure.
Yeah.
So if there are things that you want to try, you want to like put yourself out there for, like that's a whole different thing. But yeah, like no, you just can't accept any and everything that comes your way. Like that's not what I'm about at all. And I think that's obviously my biggest take on that sort of situation in a corporate setting. I have a different set of rules outside of that, like in my entrepreneurial efforts. Like that's that might not apply there. I'm not gonna lie, because you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. But yeah.
So for at least we'll call it the day job. It's about intentionally delineating between where your skills lie, where your interests lie, where your passions lie, versus just trying to get ahead.
Yeah, I think that there are jobs for certain things, right? Like we've all had a job where it's just like, this is just to pay the bills, or it's like maybe you had a job that paid the bills really well. And then you had to take another job that was like, okay, this is where I'm going to develop a certain skill, right? And maybe that paid a little less, like I think every job can have a purpose, right? Yeah. So I think it's determining like what that purpose is. Like,
yeah, no. And I also think it's worth mentioning that time is a factor too. I mean, I personally would rather whole ass one project than half ass 4 or 5.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how much that whole ass project was paying.
Yes. Oh, 100%. I mean, sometimes you'll see me half-assing, but as a rule, I would rather put my full self into something than cut corners and not be proud of the end result.
I think, I agree with that. But there's also and I'm not to refute anything that you're saying or your journey. I want to look at this holistically in a way that, you know, kind of leans into the understanding that like, yeah, like there are times where you do have to like just take any and everything that or anything that comes your way in the hopes that you can, you know, get the crumbs to pay the bills or whatever it is. Maybe it's more, maybe it's the whole slice, you know, maybe it's not just a crumb, but yeah. And it, I don't know. I feel like I'm so like back and forth with this conversation.
I think that does go to show, though, that it's fluid and it is unique to all of us, and it can sort of ebb and flow with the tides.
Yeah. Oh,
so let's kind of parse out a few other common misconceptions about work-life balance, because I mean, we just did a dissertation on the glamorization of productivity and how that can drive a wedge in work-life balance. But I also found a couple other misconceptions that I thought were interesting in my research. And a time management coach, her name is Maura Thomas. She's the creator of the Empowered Productivity System. And she explains that work-life balance is not about devoting an equal amount of time to all your priorities. And I found that interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. So not equal. Okay. It doesn't have to be equal anyway.
Right. I mean, take this for whatever measure makes sense in your own experience. But I wanted to delve into this a bit more because it sounds beneficial in theory to give 50-50 of your time, attention, and energy to both spheres of your life, the personal and the professional in this case. But Maura Thomas says that's not always practical, because the more you fixate on leveling the field, the more stressed out you'll become. And that's the opposite of balance. So how do you feel about that?
So balance is being off balance. It's about not being balanced at all. I guess as you're reading this statistic or this definition, I'm thinking that maybe this is what I'm feeling. Like why I feel so back and forth with this conversation. Like, yeah, I think you should have work-life balance, and I feel confident in this, but also at the same time, I know that there are you know, like I feel so like I feel like I straddled this conversation because I understand the need to feel like you need to grind in certain seasons of your life. And I also not even just that, but I understand that sometimes you have to do things that make your work life feel more uncomfortable, or your like play life feel more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And, you know, it kind of goes back to your earlier comment about, you know, Brandon coming to see you, and like, you know, you not feeling like you not feeling empowered enough to close the laptop and like, you know, really focus on the things surrounding you.
Yeah.
You know, I think even more so, like there's a level of privilege that we have to admit to, right? Like, you know, we have a second income stream in our house now, so we can breathe a little bit more. And I'm not gonna lie, I tell my friends all the time, that's it's nice, you know, even if it doesn't matter, like if someone's making, you know, $20,000 or 200 million, it's still more money than you were having that you have by yourself, right? So there's that piece. But anyway, I want to hear more about what she was saying about this, because I'm wondering if the whole idea of the things not being like completely equal is just like, is it certain times in your life where things are not equal, or like do you need to give your energy to more things? Like what What do you have for me?
Yeah. My takeaway from that, because I too scratched my head when I first came across that, but the more I sunk my teeth into it, the more what I at least came away with is that we might not be able to say no to, let's say, 70% work, 40% personal time.
Yeah.
That might just be the way that our career is structured for however long we're with X company, or doing Y project, or starting Z organization.
Yeah.
Like it just might be the reality of the situation we're in, that one sphere takes up more breathing room than the other. And it might flip in the next season.
Yeah.
And there might be some overlap, and there might be some straddling the line, like you were talking about earlier. It's kind of organic, and it's gonna shift, and it's not always gonna be even and equitable. And maybe we're putting more effort into trying to keep it equitable, and that's not even the point. The point isn't to make ourselves more anxious by trying to fit this concept of work-life balance into a neat and tidy box.
Yeah.
The point is actually to create boundaries within the framework we have.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's our framework, and it's going to look
Yeah.
different from someone else's framework. And it's not necessarily constructive to bemoan that, because it's the reality of the situation. And it's not constructive to compare to others, because their journeys are different. And we're doing ourselves a disservice by saying it should look this way, when it just straight up doesn't. So we got to work with what we have. And that doesn't mean that we can't still carve out really meaningful time with ourselves, or with our families, or with our hobbies, or with our passion projects, and still have a demanding job at the same time.
Yeah. I do appreciate you saying that. What was it that you said? That we are basically we might be stressing ourselves out trying to even like maintain work-life balance more than we actually need to.
Yeah.
That that one kind of hit, right? I think a lot of mothers can probably, I'm not a mom, but I bet a lot of moms can really relate to that. Parents, because, and I don't know why I'm thinking about this at all, because I am not that demographic, but I just imagine, like, I don't know, maybe dog moms too. Dog moms.
There we go.
Think, like,
Let's run with that.
Here we go. I'm definitely a dog mother. But like, just feeling like once you leave work, like, and you're working to like make sure these people that you are responsible for, these animals that you're responsible for, are alive and well, and that you can take care of them and afford that expensive dog food or whatever it is, or the daycare. But then you come home and you have like a couple hours with them before it's time for bed. And, you know, like, and now like there's that level of guilt, like the mom guilt that everybody talks about. And just like, oh, I didn't spend my day with them, and I didn't do this, and I don't have that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that, I don't know, it can kind of, I don't know why that resonated with me in that way, but I just think that I personally put a lot of emphasis on work-life balance in my life, and I can see where at times it was like, okay, girl, look, if you can't watch 30 episodes of Lost today because you have this this project or whatever, like, it's okay. Maybe next week you can watch 10 episodes, like, maybe you might have to sparse it out a little bit, but you get what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I sometimes, especially like this is some real stuff, especially like being someone who founded a whole website and digital platform that surrounds like going after the life you want. Like, there's sometimes a level of guilt where I'm like, well, I'm talking to you guys about work-life balance, but really, like, I totally just like finished working like an 8-hour shift today or like plus. And now I'm recording this podcast right afterwards. And I'm probably going to write something for the site or like do something, afterwards. But what kind of stops that train of thought for me is knowing that what I'm doing after I close the book of my, every day job, the day job. I was going to make some creative name for it. But like when I close that door, this part of my life is something that I consider my life. Like, this is like my life's work. This is like a passion. This isn't just like, it's not just work for me.
Yeah.
So it's, kind of retraining my thinking in that way. It's not like you're, sacrificing something for something that you don't necessarily care about, it's, so I don't know. Like, I think that, I'm going to stop saying I don't know, but I feel as if there's some sort of just kind of retraining my, like, thinking. And yeah, just not feeling so guilty about the time it takes to do certain things or the time I have to do certain things. And just being really grateful with the time I do have, because sometimes there are moments in our lives where we can't do what we want. Is this bad to say?
No, I absolutely agree. And I do think it's a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because we can spend so much time and spin our wheels exerting undue pressure on ourselves to maintain a work-life balance. But in all of the pressure buildup, how is that helping us achieve a work-life balance? It's like this grand oxymoron. And yeah, I think reframing or rethinking or just recalibrating what that means for all of us personally is at least a launching point.
Yeah. Again, have a lot of work to do. Unqualified Hour, folks.
I do too. Don't we all?
We have so much work to do, man.
Yeah. So that actually leads me to another misconception, which again, I feel like so many of us can relate to because it taps into that age-old dilemma of multitasking. I mean, we've all probably felt the temptation of looking for convenient ways to combine or integrate both our professional and personal commitments together into one task list.
Oh,
yeah.
Can you like dive into that really quickly and it give a little bit more explanation to that?
Yeah. So, for instance, I don't know, responding to client emails while on the sidelines at your kid's soccer practice. Like, you might assume that you're crushing it and saving yourself time, but all this does is split your focus between the two activities so that you can't be fully present for either one of them. And I'm not a soccer mom. I'm not even a mom in this season of my life. But I am notorious for multitasking, and I know I'm not alone in this. So
Oh no, you're not. Oh man, I got into an argument with Cole not too long ago because like I have one of my biggest pet peeves in life is like people not like acknowledging when I say something. Like if I say, "Hey, we have dentist appointments next week," right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you heard it, but if you don't say, "Okay, cool," I don't know why. I don't know why I need that cosign. I don't know if it's just like middle child being ignored my whole life or what. I don't know what it is. But anyway, so we were driving back from a trip and I was, on the phone, like doing that exact same, texting my job from the sidelines of my kids' basketball game or whatever. So, so I'm like responding and like Cole says something and I heard him. I just didn't. I heard him, but I didn't hear him. I didn't. I heard it.
Acknowledge him.
I didn't acknowledge it, right? So, and he was like, "Oh, so you're not even listening to me." I thought you didn't like that. I thought you didn't like when people did that. But anyway, this is so irrelevant, but it's relevant.
Well, now we know what your road trips entail.
Yeah. Well, I will say on that particular road trip, that was the only argument and it only lasted about 20 minutes. And then after that, it's like, "Are you hungry?" "Yeah, I'm hungry. You want some chips?" That's usually the icebreaker.
Snacks to keep the peace.
The snacks is what brings us together. It's Switzerland.
Yeah, multitasking. It's so tricky because on the one hand, I don't know about you, but I feel so accomplished when I can multitask.
I do too.
And
I'm like, man, I'm at this Christmas party or whatever, and I just got a new client because or whatever, right? I don't know. I shouldn't feel like that.
It's
but
so tempting though. I don't know. Well, I don't know because I've heard that, and I don't have any concrete data to back this up. It's anecdotal.
Yeah.
But I've heard the human mind physiologically cannot multitask.
I don't believe that, man. I think I'm superhuman.
I think so too. I can convince myself that I am an expert multitasker, and I do have evidence to prove that I am not wrong.
I think that you're correct. I wonder if a man did that study because they cannot multitask.
They sure can.
No, seriously. They cannot. Like at least the one I live with cannot at all. I bet it was a man who did that study for sure.
It very well might have been because this happened 48 hours ago. Brandon was eating dinner and I had finished like 20 minutes before him because he is the world's slowest consumer of food. And he was watching like some Instagram reel on his phone at the same time. And the fork is in midair in one hand. The phone is in the other hand. And he's just staring at the phone like just like totally zoned out to this reel. And we have somewhere we need to be 10 minutes ago. And I'm standing there, shoes in hand, ready to leave, wondering why he's taking 30 minutes to put a fork in his mouth and watching something on his phone at the same time. If this were me, if the tables were turned, we would be out the door by now because I can watch something and eat at the same time. I am a multitasker.
I think that you 100% are.
Thank you.
And maybe, I don't know. I think that study or whatever statistic or piece of science that you research that you have come to us with, was created by a man, but maybe it said something about women. I'm gonna just so that maybe it said something about us like doing more than one thing at once, but maybe it's just not as, good. Maybe that's what it is.
Or maybe it's become a necessity over the years because we are, societally speaking, at least, we are the caretakers, and most of us now have full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So we've just had to adapt.
Yeah. That sounds legit.
I don't know. I could be wrong, but it sounded correct in my head. So let's roll with it.
I feel good about that. I do think that we have had to adapt, and men too, but they're just not as good as we are.
Yeah, I digress. This could turn into
Should we turn the page? We should probably get off of this.
We probably should. So let's give the people some effective strategies on how to take this nebulous concept of work-life balance and turn it into something actionable.
Yeah.
So I want to reiterate, because I do think it's important, that work-life balance is fluid, it's flexible, it should be able to shift with each new season of life, and it should also be tailored to your specific needs, whether that's family, health, interests, passions, finances, goals, you fill in the blank. So it's not enough to simply work less. We have to actually think about how we want to use the time available to us, both in our careers and when we're off the clock, because we all have about 12 waking hours in a day, give or take. And it's helpful to be intentional about how we spend them. So, returning to the research portion of it all, I found a few strategies that can help either cultivate or reclaim a work-life balance that feels right for each of us. And this is by no means a comprehensive list, but I do think it's an excellent starting point. So I'm just going to run through these, and you stop me if something pings in your head that needs to be unpacked further.
Okay.
All right. Set boundaries with your clients or coworkers as to when you will be reachable and which time frames you will not be responding.
Ping.
Hit me.
Yeah, that's real. That's, of all the things that I've said today, that's probably like something that I am really good at, can provide some truly sound expert on the Unqualified Hour advice on. And yeah, like this just really resonates with me because this was one of the things that encouraged me to really like step out on faith, what I discussed earlier. And like making sure that you maintain that, like, the doors open, the doors close, like those true hours, especially at home. Because when I did leave that one full-time gig years and years ago, the next thing that I had was a freelance career, if you will. And I still do, but one of the things that I learned really early on was the importance of maintaining that balance with clients, especially. And I know you can attest to this.
Oh, yeah.
Or those boundaries with clients, because just a quick story time, and I'm going to let you get
go for it.
I have so many stories today. It's ridiculous. But I had one of my very first clients when I first started my freelancing career journey was this wonderful, like, very ambitious, successful woman. And I was like managing her. So I will not give too much away by telling you what she did. I think you and I have had a conversation about her before.
It's ringing a bell.
Yeah. And she was not as responsive. And, you know, as she should have been to a lot of the emails that I was sending her. There wasn't a lot of direction. So I was okay, well, I'm going to just take the reins. And I did what I could do. But there came like a chunk of time where she just was not responsive. She got someone else to kind of like do some of the things that, you know, she was working on. And I had to work simultaneously with this person. And this individual that was working with her was someone who would answer their phone at 11 p.m. at night when I was not ever going to do that. Like I had left a situation where that was the expectation. And I said, if I was going to control my career and be the solopreneur that I wanted to be in this type of space, like that's not what I was going to do, because I needed that work-life balance at that time where like I had enough time to kind of start my other businesses or, you know, nurture the relationship that was going to one day form into a marriage. Like I needed that time. So it was very important for me to like close the door, close the computer, you know, turn off the lights, whatever. And I remember this person saying like, hey, I know that you get your email sent to you at all hours. Like everybody's email gets sent to their phones. Like, yeah, but I will respond to you on Monday morning at 9 a.m. or whenever I get online. And they're like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a business owner, this is what you're going to need to do. And I'm like, yeah, well, long story short, me and that client have not worked together in almost 4 years at this point. But anyway, I am all the better for it. I wish him all the success, you know, but just, yeah, that's something. Oh, we can talk about that forever.
Yeah, I do. And I don't want to paint too broad a stroke here because obviously not all clients operate this way. Absolutely. But I think you're making a salient point that if you give someone an inch, it's not too hard for them to want to take a mile.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say, like at the beginning, that was something that I did not establish at first because like I thought that, oh, okay, it's just this one time. But then that one time became occasionally, and then it became sometimes, and then it became all the time. And at that point I was like, okay, did I like not set that boundary early on enough or early enough to like, you know, now I had to retrain this person and this is not how they think. I think let's put a pin in that one.
That's a future episode.
Yeah, it is.
So another strategy that I thought was helpful is to schedule personal time as a non-negotiable appointment with yourself, just as you would with a client meeting or a performance review. I really like that because it's showing that your time with yourself is valuable.
100%. Even if you're working in a corporate setting. Another hot tip I have to add on to that is just to block your calendar for the same time every single day. I have a block from 12 to 1:30 on my calendar. No one can book anything because it's blocked. So if that's the time, that usually what that is for me is like lunchtime and then like the 30 minutes after or before to just kind of regroup and get my mind back into like work mode. So
it's funny you say that because that's the third tip on this list.
Well, there you go.
Use the time block method, as you were just talking about, to establish concrete margins in your calendar for job responsibilities, family commitments, and self-care activities. So, Alexis, we've written an article about this on the SunDaze Journey website, but for folks who are unfamiliar, could you kind of just provide an overview of what the time block method is? And I know it can kind of take different forms for different people, but how do you do it?
So I essentially and again, like you said, you can do
Mhm.
this a million different ways, and we'll link this in the
Yeah.
in the show notes. But basically what you're doing is you're taking a certain set of time, whether it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's 2 or 3 hours, to knock out a specific task or responsibility. So it could be like, if we're talking on, like, the corporate work or freelancing spectrum, maybe you're like, okay, I have 2 hours in the morning to work on this particular project for this client, or like, for my job, and then I have another 30 minutes that I can block out to like look at emails. This I love this method, and I am obviously a huge fan of it, because it helps me stay on track with not just like, the day to day, but like my larger goals. So like I can block a certain amount of time every day towards to use that time towards a goal or a task that's gonna set me to where I want to be in like, X amount of time, a certain amount of time. So yeah.
Totally. And to kind of tease that apart further, I think it's interesting that maybe interesting is the wrong word. I think it's human that we sometimes feel like we have to do it all on our own. And there's certainly something to be said for owning our time and making it fit in accordance with what we want to accomplish in a day, but it's not all on our shoulders to do solo. So while you're time blocking your calendar, maybe think about which tasks can be delegated or even outsourced if possible. And these can be non-essential items that you could pass off to a virtual assistant if you're in a position where you can hire one, or maybe ask a colleague for assistance if they have some free time in their schedule and are willing to pitch in. I mean, collaboration is so important on teams, and it doesn't have to be this I am woman, hear me roar, got to do it all on my own. There's space, and there's no shame in asking for help and delegating when necessary. So
That's real.
that leads me to another tip that I struggle with, because I don't want, full disclosure, to seem like I can't handle it or that I don't have it all together, even though I'm just as capable of feeling overwhelmed as the next person. But communicate with your supervisor about any workload concerns you might have if you feel like there are too many obligations on your plate. Can't guarantee how the conversation will turn out, but it's better to voice a concern on the front end than to allow it to pile up until it starts affecting your performance or even worse, your mental health. So be transparent, be honest, and allow yourself to acknowledge when you've hit your limits. I also think we should mention that it's helpful to resist the urge to overcommit to something that you don't have the capacity for, or maybe even the interest in. No is a complete sentence, and sometimes it doesn't even require an explanation.
Go listen to our episode 1 where we discussed boundaries. That was a big thing. No is a complete sentence for sure.
Do you have more to say on that?
I mean, if we could just rewind everything I said earlier, when I used that scenario or that story to explain how, like, sometimes if you're going after a raise or a promotion or whatever it is, like in the corporate space. And honestly, I think sometimes in like the contractor freelancing space too, like people want to see that you can do so much, or like they will use that, like, what else can you do? What else can you do to before they give you more things to work on? And, that can lead to burnout, as you mentioned.
Sure.
And you have to know when it's the right time to say no, and like when you have to be like, okay, look, if you want me to do this, I'm gonna need additional resources or something, or we're gonna have to invest in a particular tool or platform that will help me accomplish these tasks or whatever a little bit more efficiently, so that I can put more focus and attention towards your X thing, your project, your emotions, whatever it is. Yeah,
even a small amount of self-advocacy can go a long way.
Yes.
And that leads me into use PTO without guilt, people. Plan that vacation, take that mental health day, unplug from the Slack channel, camp out on the couch and binge your favorite show. Yes. Hello, Lost. Hello, Homeland. We all deserve some time off to rest and recharge our batteries. And finally, don't neglect your health or sacrifice your relationships on the altar of career success. Well-being matters more than a corporate ladder.
And that is the tea on that, folks.
That is the tea.
That's,
So before we wrap this conversation up and sort of transition into our next segment, do you have any final insights on work-life balance, either as a corporate girly or a freelancer in a former life or someone who loves a side hustle? Any final thoughts or takeaways?
So I have a lot of thoughts, and that's the problem. That's why we've gone an hour and a half into this episode, because your girl cannot shut up.
I love it.
I believe that you and whoever created all of this wonderful research that you put together, I believe that work-life balance is fluid and it is personal. As someone who, again, we mentioned earlier, like we are both high achieving, ambitious women, have a lot of goals, have a lot of things on our plates most times. My hot take for myself and the rest of the world is that time and place and scenario, I know there have been times in my life where I have had to grind for the whole year. And then there have been times in my life where I got to kind of coast. 2024 was that year for me. I felt like I just needed to put more of an emphasis on getting myself back together in the post-COVID world. And kind of finding out who that person is. Like, I had to find my style again. I had to, do a little bit more of my, favorite things I like to do, and to go back outside and explore, because I spent so much time like getting comfortable inside the house. So no, I could not focus on work, like trying to climb a corporate ladder, or I couldn't really like put that big of an emphasis on my entrepreneurial goals in 2024. I think I did okay with it, but I knew that at that point in my life, like I needed to kind of take a step back and work on the things that matter, build community, and now I feel like a lot of those things are in like a pretty solid place, where like if I did have to like spend a little extra time working on something, I'm okay with that, So all in all, time and place case by case.
Ooh, that's a word right there. Let's end it on that note. That's a fun little catchphrase that will be living rent free in my head for the next week or so.
All right.
So let's transition over to shining a light, because we got to give some flowers.
Yeah,
it's a fun way to end what can be kind of a cerebral conversation and a long one at that. So, Alexis, is there a person, resource, or organization you want to showcase that embodies and advocates for a healthy work-life balance that you've been following along with lately?
I don't know if I have a person or, but this kind of sucks because I want to have a person. I'll give two. I'll give a thing, and then I'll give a person. So, something that I fell in love with this year was like the concept of like these bingo cards. And are you familiar with this like method of like goal tracking?
No, honestly, I'm not.
Oh my gosh. So essentially it's a bingo card where you fill out all of your goals, and every time you make bingo or get bingo, you treat yourself to something.
Oh, that's fun.
And I am so obsessed with this, but I think it's just like, it's so beautiful. And I love it because like it does like, it combines that like bit of like, I don't know, goal seeking or whatever, but it's still also like your life balance, I guess. Like you can put literally anything on this bingo card. For me, like a lot of my stuff was like just go and do and live life and like go to a cooking class and skydive. I totally don't have skydiving on there, but like I love the idea of being able to like treat yourself to something that is uniquely for you once you like achieve this goal. Anyway, so like if you're a goal tracker or like a New Year's resolution type of person, like this, that's like one of like, it's like the new vision board, right? But it like helps you keep track of what has been done.
What a fun idea.
Yeah, it's really cute. So you can put all your work stuff on there. Like I want to like get 1 million followers or like finish this research report. And then at the end, like you can use the bingo to do something fun for yourself. So that's really, really cool. The other person that I really want to give my flowers to is my best friend. Aww. So Sinitra, hey girl, hi. You better be listening to this. I'm gonna know. I'm not even gonna tell you in real life. I'm just gonna wait until I hear you say. No, don't test your friends like that, people. That's crazy. But she has truly been a driving like force in my work-life balance over the last couple of years, and especially she was the one that introduced me to Kindle Unlimited. So we got to give our props to her. It's just really nice to have someone in your life that reminds you like, hey girl, you need to like back up and like, hey, what have you done for yourself today? What are you doing? Why are you acting crazy? Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, this doesn't, it's nice to have that. And, she's definitely been she's been in my life for like, I'm not going to tell you how many years, but it's more than 2 decades.
It's amazing. I love friends that can offer that fine line of accountability and encouragement. Yeah,
the accountability is so strong there. And I'm sure she would say the same too. It's not just a one-way street. I hope. If it is, girl, keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear it. But no, it's beautiful, and I'm so lucky to have her in my life, and
that's so sweet.
Yeah. What about you? Like, give me something that'll put me to shame, because I'm sure you have like a great organization.
Oh, please. Mine is also a person.
Oh,
I don't know this individual in real life.
okay.
I kind of wish I did. Are you familiar with Morgan Harper Nichols?
Yes.
I want to shine a light on her account
Yeah.
because she's such a talented artist and poet, and every time I see her artwork and read her words, I just feel soothed. It's
Oh,
peaceful to look at.
I
It
love that.
takes my blood pressure down a few notches. The colors are so ethereal. The words are so seamlessly woven together. She's a writer's writer, and I appreciate that as someone who spends every day crafting words myself.
Yeah.
So I just kind of sense, I don't know, a bit of a kindred spirit in her. And she always has an ability to communicate the message of like, hey, grow where you're planted. Where you are is enough. You're doing okay. Don't try to push it more than what you're capable of in this season. Don't guilt yourself into more or different or wish away the time you have, but be present, be rooted, be here now, and extend yourself some grace. You're doing the best you can. And I feel like that dovetails into this conversation around work-life balance because it isn't about more. Sometimes it's about less, and sometimes it's just about enough. And I feel that reassurance strongly every time I interact with her content. Just that reminder to take a pause, take a deep breath, do what I can, do what's being asked of me, but don't expect an outcome. Just be with the process. And I love that. I don't think we give ourselves enough permission to do that and to be okay with that. So I would like to throw my flowers at her feet today.
That's nice. Yeah, that's beautiful. I agree. I do appreciate her work as well. Like I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm following every single thing, but I'm familiar. Love it.
So let's leave the listeners with a little call to action. If you don't want to participate, that's fine. You do you. As I literally just got through saying a second ago, where you are is enough. So don't push it if you don't want to. But if you feel so inclined, carve out a few minutes after this episode or in your journaling time or whenever you have some spare moments and reflect on the current state of your own work-life balance and implement a new strategy this week that will help you cultivate more balance in your own life. Also, if you want to, we would love to hear your feedback on what resonated with you about this topic or any stories that you might want to share on how you learn to navigate the intricacies of work-life balance. We're all ears, and we would love to communicate with you further.
Yeah. So if you do have any questions that you would like us to respond to on air, or if you just want to send us a hot, steamy love letter. Okay. Please don't send it if you want to. Do not. No, if you want to send some love and positive words or just thoughts to us, like you can totally do so by emailing us at hello at SunDazeJourney.com.
Yeah. And also, please rate and review the podcast if you loved it. Also, why wouldn't you love it? Please subscribe so that it shows up in your feed every time we drop a new episode. We're also on social media. You can follow us there at SunDaze Journey. And visit our website. We're always putting what we think is valuable content up there, and we'd love for you to check it out. Did I miss anything, Alexis?
I do not think so. I think that was it from what I heard.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much. This was a wonderful conversation. Hopefully we didn't confuse you and you found some sort of something from this. Highly encourage you to do Mary-Beth's call to action. I think I'm going to do it myself. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.